Come back into your share.
Oh, it's working.
Okay, we are here with Donya, Amer, and Tonya, Allison, and Sean Blatchford, and Caroline Atkins to view our case study 1 evidence in the APSL. And we are recording. Thank everyone for coming. We certainly appreciate it. All right. The agenda that we're going to work on is we're going to first review our case study. We're going to discuss the questions. We're going to collaborate for a group consensus, and hopefully we can come to a consensus. We're going to have some takeaways from this and any assignment clarification that might be coming up. Is there any questions on the agenda, or is there anyone that needs to add anything?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, a recap of the story. What are your thoughts? We got a new a principal. He was friends. Actually, I thought to butt in to go first, I actually thought that the problem was going to be between him and the friends, not necessarily the reading. What did y'all think?
I thought so too. I think it's always hard if you're staying in the same school, taking leadership positions with people that you've worked with for a long time, to make that transition change from being a friend to also now being a leader in that same community. So at the beginning of the story, I kind of was thinking it was going to go that way as well.
Yeah.
But I did think that the good thing I saw out of that first paragraph or so was the teachers knew what kind of classroom management that he had. They knew what kind of relationships he had with the students. And so they knew, I think they had confidence that he would be able to be a good leader, because the kids already, knew him. They knew what he was going to do. They knew when they picked up their kids, they were going to be calm and going to be ready to go on to the next task. So I did have those reservations, but then when I read about the classroom management part, and how leadership had seen and was recognizing his skills and be able to lead that made me feel better about how this was going to go.
I agree. And I think furthermore that the families and parents also recognized his reputation as well. Definitely helped a lot. And I, again, was not knowing what to expect once we started reading. And I'm glad to hear that that wasn't an additional challenge. So to build off of what Tonya said, knowing what the other teachers already knew about his classroom management, having already a good reputation, despite being in a related arts role, not necessarily a classroom teacher role. I was worried that him being in PE and then taking over as principal would create any sort of conflict with the families. And I'm glad to hear that it didn't.
Yeah, I do know that that was one of our competencies with ethics. And I thought about that when I wrote my competencies up, that you have to be who you say you are. And this was a great example of it. He already had that leadership mentality, already acted like it. So when he took the role, it was a nice, smooth transition. Okay, we're going to go on to our first question, and I split up these 4 questions to make it fair. And Sean and Donya can take the first question. It's, what do you think of the way James handled his particular situation, considering his limited background?
Do you care if I go first, Sean?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say the biggest thing that stood out to me was his transparency with his faculty and staff, coming from making it more personal, so that he said, this is going to be a group effort, that we're all going to be working together. So the fact that he was completely transparent and let everyone know about the 2 biggest struggles that he was going to have, and making it sort of a collaborative experience, I thought that was phenomenal. Being a teacher, I want to know what's going on in leadership. And so that's something that I really, really appreciated.
I totally agree. I think James found a great starting place by calling the meeting with the staff. He addressed the 2 most pressing needs, And I really liked that he was asking the staff, how can he best provide constructive feedback for their teaching practices, and also how he can address the reading weakness. And then I also really liked that he followed this up by meeting with the reading coach. They went to a reading conference. He met with the, and then, oh, sorry, I'm trying to read as I'm talking too. He also created the plan to review school-wide, like with all the teacher reading techniques. So I think he took all really great steps to address those two pressing needs.
And asking how the teachers would like the feedback given to them, because not everybody responds the same way. So taking the time to actually open up and say, if there's a specific way that you'd like me to give you feedback, because it is in an uncomfortable situation where I was a colleague and now I am in a supervisory role. So I thought that was great. Similarly to how we do with our students, we know not all of our students are going to take feedback well. So it's nice to see that transition into a leadership role with managing adults instead of kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
I agree. Transparent was a big word that I said too.
Yeah.
Transparency. Yeah. Okay. Tonya and Caroline, myself. Question 2. What more could be done to help the reading scores in this school? Tonya, would you like to take the lead?
Oh, sure. So as I was looking at the question and the things that he was doing, he had some really good ideas. But I think because he was new and he was in that concentrated arts, he didn't have as many resources as he might have. So one of the things I talked about was doing that deep data dive like we did in our PLCs, where you're looking at the school report card for at least the last 4 or 5 years to look for trends in the reading and math scores, and studying those proficiencies or non-proficiencies of your subgroups and how they have grown or not grown. And looking at the school improvement plan that has been in place, going back however many years, and seeing what the growth and how that has worked for the school. And I don't want to take everything, but I'm going to do one more thing. I'm trying to look at the EVOS data for his reading teachers and see which teachers had some growth or strengths in their EVOS data, and then utilizing those teachers also as leaders to help with the reading scores. And I'm going to let Caroline say things because I'm sure she's got some of the same ideas and we don't want to all say the same thing.
Well, thank you. Yes, I thought about those scores too, but I really put them in the question 4 when it came to utilizing resources. But what made me think about him is my own situation. My pressing need was obviously the math, but my principal wanted me to have biology and study biology, and none of us were. So we have a content specialist, and he did the same thing by getting a content specialist. The reading panel in 2000 recommended using a variety of intentional vocabulary instruction. And I think the word here that stresses is intentional. Several researchers like Douglas, Shook, and Bailey proved that when you have intentional and explicit vocabulary instruction, the reading ability and the comprehension increases. And that wasn't just in our biology, but that's what made me think about it with this situation. Since he got a content specialist, that they could look at different strategies to improve test scores. Okay.
I did add one more thing is, well, it may be a resource, though I'll wait.
Okay.
It might be a resource. So,
All right. All right, Sean and Tonya, question 3. What additional resources could James utilize to help the school improve?
So some things that I jotted down were he could have utilized Oh gosh, I don't know why I'm getting so tongue-tied today. He needs, I think, to utilize all the time that they have, especially with those low reading scores. I mean, there just never seems to be enough time in the day to help the kids with the extra time that they need. Utilizing all of the reading online resources, some digital tools, researching those digital tools, researching best practices and programs. I think utilizing instructional coaches and facilitators, having them lead professional developments that are related to what they are focusing on. And then that way it's also strengthening the teachers and giving them those PD hours. I think that just alignment and engagement with the teachers, the staff, the parents, even the district, having a clear focus, vision, goals, and just having everybody involved and not just a couple people trying to aid in these problems.
I agree. I thought that he could, of course, get his reading coaches and his instructional facilitator, but also across the district, there may be some reading-based programs in schools that have similar demographics as him, because you have to really think about the kind of school that you're in. May be Title I, may not be Title I, socioeconomic and different things that you have to look at, that one program, a digital program that might work at one school might not work at another. And according to Oven in our book, a leadership team is a great way to start to develop communication through the school and community. Last year, we had 2 IFs, one for K2 and one for 3-5. And so they were really to be able to deep dive into the standards at our school. And our scores went from an F, we are 4 points away from a C. We almost jumped 2 grade levels. And so this year we are an opportunity culture school where we have 3 multi-class coach leaders. So we have a K1, a 2-3, and a 4-5. So we have a big administrative leadership team that can also help. Would it be the same thing like James could use to guide what they're going to do? And I like how you said about the time, knowing how to use a schedule and knowing how to do a schedule for a principal is very important, to use those blocks of instructional time. And that was also talked about in the page 249 in Oven, about how to integrate PLTs during the specials. And UFly, that one, the one research-based plan, that was actually something our team looked at to support our reading program, was the UFly from the University of Florida Literacy Institute. When we were trying to decide our most pressing need. And it's a really good program. It's free online. The manuals are $99 a person. So if you do the online things, you're fine. But if you need some guidance, the manuals do cost. But I liked all the things that you said about the online digital programs and things like that.
Right. And piggybacking off what you said for the instructional leaders, I was in some of the research I was reading about extra resources that principals can use. It talked about creating a plan that staff holds each other accountable for the success of every student in their school, and not just in their classrooms, by just continually examining that student data of different types with behavior, attendance, grades, their work, their scores. So I read the idea of having instructional leaders per every 2 grades would be one of those ways to implement that plan.
Yay, we're on a plan. We're on the right track.
Very
Yes, well, interesting you said that. I love that.
Yeah. Okay. Donya and Caroline, question 4. Is the resources James can utilize to help improve the school improve? Donya, your takes on that?
Yeah, sure. So I think Tonya sort of mentioned it in the last slide, but speaking to other school leaders who have been in the same situation as they are, with test scores and new leadership, I think also using the competency of delegating. When you are in a new role, it can be super overwhelming to try to take on everything. So going through the app, so learning about identifying that most pressing need, creating an action plan, and identifying specific roles for each person, especially people who have had great test scores, who have had some tenure, who have had some sort of, I mean, there is proof that what they're implementing is working. And being a leader, identifying everyone's strengths and delegating tasks to everyone. So those were the two biggest ones that stuck out to me.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I interrupt just a second?
Uh-huh.
I want to make sure I'm clear on something. I have question 4 saying, what would James be sacrificing by placing an extraordinary emphasis only on the reading program? Am I wrong?
Okay, my page cut off there. That's what I have for 4. So I might be wrong.
So, I mean, I had 3, what additional resource could James utilize to help the school improve? And then on question 4, I thought it said, what could he be sacrificing, if anything, by placing extraordinary emphasis only on the, does anybody else have that?
No, I see that too. I was going off of the slides, so don't worry. We can just
That's
go
okay.
off
We
the
Yeah,
board.
yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
was
I
just
mean, what
making
do they
sure.
say? Modify and adjust. So
Yeah,
That's
we're
it.
all good.
That's it.
yeah, let's
Thank
go.
you for bringing
I
that
guess
to our attention,
what-
Tonya.
Yeah, thank you. So what would he be sacrificing if he only emphasizes the reading program? Well, in the case study, it said that he would be implementing a plan for math, social studies, and science in the upcoming years. So sacrificing, I mean, you could be sacrificing focusing on those other subjects, but I think to avoid that, something he could do is implement what best practices are working with reading and seeing how they can go across subjects, you know? So if you're
Right.
doing small intentional small group instruction, what intentional small group instruction could you do with math? And reading is just seems to be the foundation for all other subjects that you can build off of. I mean, you can't really do too much math unless you have foundational reading skills to understand what you're supposed to be solving. Similarly to social studies and science. So, I mean, I think sacrifice is a big word to use. I don't think there would be many sacrifices. I think it's just creating a clear vision for everyone that we're going to use our reading scores to be the focal point that will eventually bleed out into the other core subjects.
I think you're right, Donya, and I say that because piggybacking off that question too, you know, if you focus on the reading and the vocabulary, then the comprehension increases. So whether it's history, English,
Yeah.
that will certainly cover a lot of subjects. But something that I wanted to add to that as well, that has a lot to do with that, is your subgroups. And you, I think, Tonya, you mentioned that by looking at your extra data.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be good to get with the testing coordinator to look at some of that subgroups. I know Hart asked, had a research in 95. It's a pretty old research that studied the gaps of students that came from different environments. And so all of them, because they have these different backgrounds, they don't start on an even playing field. And especially with multicultural at-risk students, they've come from a variety of backgrounds. And so when they start school, they're on a different playing field and they're already behind, and they're at so many different levels, and they just keep getting behind if they can't get caught up. So those extra resources that Sean mentioned is definitely needed for those different areas as well as age groups.
Yeah, and understanding that that's not all going to happen immediately. That if you have an elementary school and if you're starting this program with the 5th graders and then you're starting with the 1st graders, graders are the teachers in 5th grade are going to see those benefits by the time those 1st graders are in 5th grade. So just understanding that if we do start now, it's going to continue to build.
And I found a really good article on through the Wallace Foundation, how principals affect students and schools. and talking about school leadership matters for school outcomes, and which includes student achievement. Talking about the clear vision that you said earlier and the big picture of the school. Effective principles are substantially important effects that extend beyond student achievement, and they orient their practice toward instructionally focused interactions with teachers, facilitating collaboration and PLC communities, and with strategic personnel and resource management processes. And that was I found that a really good article to use, talking more about equity and efficacy that's coming up that in our app tell. So I was like, ooh, that's going to be a good article for me.
Yeah.
So I'll share it in our text.
Yes.
That'd be great.
So, but like Ubben also says in chapter 11 that there has to be a fine balance with leadership, with the quality of teaching and how you motivate teachers, and then exercising that professional judgment while ensuring that the curriculum is taught. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff that I think we've agreed on today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think time too, like, a lot of these programs and these new interventions that he could implement, it's going to take time to coach the teachers as well. They won't all know right off the bat how to implement everything. So I think that will also take up some time as far as the sacrificing and eventually leading, like having a ripple effect into the other subjects.
Yeah, and having a good reputation to begin with makes the following a lot more agreeable. And knowing that you're working for someone that you already put belief in. I think that's very powerful as well.
Totally. I think he's off to a great start, especially
James.
background and the information that he had. We love James.
Yeah.
We do love James.
That's a good name.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the personal
I went
ethics,
ahead and went,
like you
I'm
said,
sorry. Go ahead.
I was like, the personal ethics part, like when people know that they can come to you, they know what your reputation is, they know what you stand for. And so,
Building that trust.
that's important, that people trust you on lots of levels. And so the students want to do that too, and families.
That goes back, some of the research that I saw that I had in the APSOL was talking about motivation being a key factor with interventions. They have to have like a motivation piece as well. And if they trust you and have a relationship with you, and same for teachers with principals, want to do better, and the efficacy, like if they believe that they're going to do better, they perform better.
That whole emotional intelligence competency like filled in within this.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say that you could tell he took, before he was even a leader, he was already a leader, and he took personal responsibility. And that's also one of our, what is it? Our competencies. Yeah, that's one of our competencies. I went ahead and flipped to the next slide because we all kind of just moved on to the consensus and the takeaways. So I just went ahead and moved on to it.
Sure.
So for our assignment clarification, we're going to, I'm going to send the Zoom link to everyone. And then we have to write a 2-page, a reflection of our reading and a reflection.
One page.
Okay, 1 page.
It's a total of 1 page from what I understood. Half a page is our reflection on what we read, and the other half a page is a reflection on our consensus takeaways. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have the instructions pulled up. It says each candidate will write a 1-page, 2-part reflective summary of both the case study and the case study Zoom session. The case study part of the reflective summary will include an overview of the relevant points of the case, and then reflecting on the takeaways from our discussion.
Very good.
So 1-page, 2-part. So I would say half and half.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All righty.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Great job, team.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Good.
Stop recording and share. Okay.
So you've stopped recording?
It still says
No,
recording.
it still
on the
says
tab.
recording.
I'm trying to stop it.